We are on Chapter 8, where we will learn a bit more about claims and evidence. But first, let's recap what we've learned in Chapter 7 briefly. In your research arguments, you must make new, important, and interesting claims. Explain those claims with evidence. Explain your evidence with subordinate claims, supported with further evidence. Explain why you think your evidence logically supports your claim, and answer the reader's objections to your argument. In doing this, you work with the readers in a thoughtful conversation. The four elements of a research argument are claim, evidence, warrant, and qualification. And the claim and evidence must always be explicitly stated. Now on to Chapter 8, Claims and Evidence. As we've said before, in order to have a credible, believable argument, you must make the claim and evidence explicit. Your main claim is the most important part of your report. This is your general thesis, your statement. For your claim to be strong and convince your readers, it needs to be substantive, contestable, and specific. What does it mean for a claim to be substantive? It's when your claim offers important, meaningful, and considerable information to the readers. It should help the readers understand something important with information that is important and useful. Then, what kinds of claims are not substantive? Claims that are only about what you have done and claims that are only about what your paper will do. For example, let's look at a claim like this that says, though the 1981 to 1982 recession occurred because OPEC raised oil prices, I have examined the role of the Federal Reserve Board. After reading this claim, readers would only be thinking, so? The claim offers no answer. The claim only tells readers about what the writer has done, but nothing about the role of the Federal Reserve Board. Then, how about this claim? This paper will discuss the role of OPEC and the Federal Reserve Board in the recession of 1981 to 1982. This claim is just like the one before and only makes the readers think, so what? Again, the claim offers no answer because there is no justification. Both of these claims don't say anything substantive about the OPEC, the Federal Reserve Board, or the recession. You can see that you don't need an argument to support both of them because they aren't saying anything important. On the other hand, this claim is substantive. The 1981 to 1982 recession did not occur because OPEC raised oil prices, but mainly because the Federal Reserve Board tightened the money supply. You would be able to support this with evidence why you think the Federal Reserve Board tightening the money supply was the reason for the recession. Secondly, your claim must be contestable. A good claim should be significant enough that it's contestable, which means readers can challenge it. It should make your readers want further explanation because they have long thought otherwise or never thought about it at all. Your claim shouldn't only refer to your report or you, or repeat what readers already know, because then readers wouldn't contest it, since it wouldn't change what they believe in a meaningful way. For example, this is an example of a claim that is not contestable. World War II changed the course of history. Most readers already believe this, so it adds nothing new. It doesn't change the readers' minds in any way, so reading this claim is a waste of time for your readers. Lastly, a good claim must be specific. It should be sufficiently detailed and specific for the readers to recognize the central concepts that you will develop in your paper. Compare these three claims. 1. The emancipation of Russian peasants was not a significant event. 2. The emancipation of Russian peasants was not significant because while their lives changed somewhat, their situation declined. 3. The emancipation of Russian peasants was only symbolic because while they gained control over their daily affairs, their economic condition deteriorated so sharply that their new social status did not affect the material quality of their existence. Claim 1 doesn't offer enough information for it to be meaningful. Claim 2 is less vague, but the specific concepts the reader should watch out for are not announced except for declined. Claim 3 is an effective claim, as it explicitly announces the concepts that the author must develop in its support: symbolic, gain control, economic condition, deteriorate, new social status, and material quality of existence. It is important that you state the main claim in language that is specific, because when readers see that language reappear later in the paper, your text will likely feel more coherent to them, and the concepts you develop will feel more focused. Making good, plausible claims is not just important in convincing your readers, but they can also help you guide your research. Readers will dismiss your claims if they are not substantive, contestable, and explicit. When you research and read sources, you're the reader, so you will understand your sources better when you can identify their major claims and the supporting evidence. Therefore, if you make a substantive claim with explicit concepts, you can use these concepts to sort your evidence so that you can make sure all the evidence needed to support yourself is there. Let's look at this example, Claim 3 from just now. Here, what evidence relates to gained control, deteriorated economic condition, new social status, material quality? These claims are part of the main claim as well as part of the sub-arguments that need their own supporting evidence. The more explicit your language, the more evidence you need to support your claims, and the better you will see the research that you must still do. If this is your first research paper, don't be intimidated by the seemingly impossible task of making a significant, contestable claim to readers that are experts in the subject of your research. Remember that your teachers understand this problem, and they expect you to make a claim that would be new and contestable for someone with your level of experience and knowledge, or just new for yourself. On the other hand, if you're an advanced student, your research would have to be considered contestable by experts, so you'll have to keep this in mind. We've now talked about the claim. Your claim is the core of your paper, but most of the paper will be devoted to supporting evidence. If readers reject your supporting evidence, they may reject your claim, which clearly isn't good. So reliable evidence is extremely important. There are 6 criteria in judging whether evidence adequately supports your argument: accuracy, precision, sufficiency, representativeness, authority, and perspicuity. A piece of evidence may be rejected if one of these criteria is not fulfilled adequately. It may also be rejected due to warrants, but we will discuss that in the next chapter. These criteria are not only limited to research arguments, but are everywhere in our daily conversations. Let's first look at accuracy. For example, someone might say, "I need new sneakers. My feet have grown." Here, the evidence is that his feet have grown. However, if this evidence is inaccurate, as in that his feet did not actually grow much, other people will reject the evidence and the claim it tries to support. So here, the girl might say, "Your feet haven't grown that much in a month." What she would mean is that she accepts that what is offered as evidence could be relevant to the claim, but she rejects it because it is not accurate. Above all, your evidence needs to be accurate. Readers can take the smallest flaw in your data, the most trivial mistake in a quotation or your spelling, as a sign of your unreliability. Accuracy is crucial, so make sure you know the reliability of your evidence. You can use questionable evidence as long as you acknowledge its unreliability. In fact, if you point to evidence that seems to support your claim and reject it as unreliable, you will show that you are cautious and self-critical. The second criterion is precision. Let's look at this example, still on the previous example's topic of shoes. The boy says, "But I need new ones," and says as evidence that these seem small. But the girl replies that they don't seem to hurt you much, and rejects his evidence because the phrase "seem small" is not sufficiently precise. Make sure your evidence is precise according to the standards of your field. Don't make your evidence seem more precise than it is, but don't hedge your claim so that readers cannot assess its substance and precision either. An example of a hedged claim is, the Forest Service has spent a great deal of money to prevent forest fires, but there is still a high probability of large, costly ones. How much money is a great deal? How high is a high probability? Be careful of words such as some, most, many, almost, often, usually, generally, etc. When used inappropriately, they can make your claim elusive. The third criterion is sufficiency. For example, the boy then says, "But they look awful. They're dirty. Look at these raggedy laces." Here, his evidence is that his shoes are dirty and have raggedy laces. But the girl may think that raggedy laces and dirt aren't reason enough to buy new sneakers, because while the evidence may be factually correct, it is insufficient evidence of the inoperable, utterly bad condition of your shoes. There must be sufficient evidence to support a claim. Different fields gauge the sufficiency of evidence differently. Beginners typically present insufficient evidence by thinking they have supported a general claim with one bit of data. Remember that almost always, more than one bit of data is needed to support a claim that is substantive and contestable. Another mistake that beginning researchers make is trying to prove their claim by citing the lack of evidence. For example, "No evidence shows life elsewhere in the universe, so there must be none." This is quite useless since if you turn the statement around, it becomes, "No evidence shows that life cannot exist elsewhere in the universe, so it probably does." So don't make this mistake. The fourth criterion is authority. Authoritative evidence is evidence that is able to be trusted as reliable or true. Let's come back to our example. The boy says, "Everybody thinks I should get new sneakers," as his evidence. But the girl rejects his evidence because she thinks that everybody's opinion doesn't matter, as even if that opinion were true, other people's opinions are not authoritative. Evidence coming from authoritative sources is the most reliable. When using primary sources, make sure that the publications are recent and are by a reputable press. When using tertiary sources such as encyclopedias and mass circulation publications, never assume that they are authoritative, and look at the dates of the citations in its bibliography. Remember that authoritative again varies by field. In the sciences, out of date could be a month ago, but in the humanities, a book more than a century old may still be judged as reliable. Distinguish authoritative evidence from authorities. In every field, experts disagree with each other, and some people pretend to be experts. To learn what is authoritative evidence in your field, listen to lectures for the kinds of arguments that your instructors criticize because they think the evidence is unreliable. You will understand what is reliable when you understand what is not. The fifth criterion is perspicuity. Perspicuity is when something is clearly expressed and easily understood. For example, the boy says, "Haven't you seen the way I have to walk?" implying evidence that he needs new shoes. But the girl simply answers, "No." His evidence is not perspicuous, as the girl doesn't see anything wrong with the boy. His evidence has not been expressed clearly enough. If readers cannot see your evidence as evidence, you might as well offer none at all. If you are dealing with quantitative data, make sure your readers can see in the information what you want them to see. If you just give them raw numbers, many readers might not understand your evidence, nor how it supports your claim. Make sure that you do not give readers only the bare bones of your argument. Fully explain why your evidence is meaningful in supporting your claim. Do not assume that it is obvious how evidence supports your argument. Point out what you want readers to notice and why it is notable. If you offer only evidence without interpretation, your report will not be understood, and it will suggest a lack of critical analysis. The sixth and last criterion is representativeness. Evidence is representative when it reflects the whole population that your claim is about. For example, the boy suddenly starts limping and says, "Look at how I limp." The girl replies, "You were walking fine a minute ago," rejecting his evidence as it is not representative. As a second example, it is not representative if I claim that people in village A are left-handed, so all people in the world should be left-handed. Beginning researchers often offer evidence that does not reflect the range of available evidence because they cannot imagine what more representative evidence would look like. To avoid this, ask someone experienced in your field after collecting your evidence about the kinds of additional evidence they would expect to support a claim like yours. What counts as representative also varies by field, so make sure your evidence is representative according to the standards of your field. You can use your evidence to develop and organize your paper by evaluating your arguments. As we have said before in Chapter 7, imagine yourself and your readers in a civil conversation, working together to create new knowledge. This emphasis on dialogue can help you find and build your arguments, even when your notes seem to be nothing more than a pile of information. Use the elements of argument as a principle of organization that helps you to anticipate your readers' concerns. By understanding how researchers put together their arguments, you can do a better job of reading your sources, taking notes on them, and eventually putting your own arguments together. Remember that your argument must always include a claim and supporting evidence. Good researchers also explain their evidence, treating it as if it were a claim in a more detailed argument that requires still more evidence. They construct supporting explanatory arguments to support their evidence, offering readers good reasons why their evidence is sound. The evidence that supports a main claim will also be divided into groups of smaller arguments, each of them structured as a subclaim with its own supporting evidence. This chart outlines your argument. And we are at the end of Chapter 8. The next chapter is Chapter 9, where we will discuss warrants.